Donald Trump and his entire presidential campaign continue to escape any accountability from the mainstream media. And it is so evident, especially in this election cycle. We have seen Donald Trump's attacks on our democracy in 2016 and 2020. And as he continues them now, and SWS doubt about the outcome of this upcoming election, the media is just brushing it off as Trump as normal, trying to sandwash his ridiculous and dangerous attacks on our democracy. And when he fails to answer simple policy questions as he ram on, they don't push back. They don't follow up. They just don't care. And of course, as we see clear evidence of his cognitive decline, the mainstream media fails to give any attention to this incredibly important story. This is a tale that we've seen before, and for some reason the mainstream media has not learned from their mistakes. But there's another question that's not being answered by the media and not being asked by the media, and that's where's Melania Trump. But it seems like we are finally getting an answer to that. Of course, we know that the former First Lady and Donald Trump have a bit of a rocky relationship, to put it lightly. But we've seen Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff out on the campaign trail joyously supporting his wife in Kamala Harris. So where is Melania Trump? Where is her support? Well, it looks like we have finally gotten an answer to that question in a couple questions about the relationship between Trump and Melania, with this insane post that the former First Lady made on Twitter, just really, really ridiculous. But before we can get into that, I think we need a bit of context about why she made this post. So let's check that out in an article right here. Trump Super PAC paid Melania 6 figures to speak at their own house. When it comes to Donald Trump, it's all just one giant grift. A new report from the New York Times published Thursday reveals that the top super PAC affiliated with the former president paid Melania Trump $155,000 for a speaking engagement at their own residence in Mar-a-Lago. In other words, Trump effectively got his biggest supporters to pay his wife 6 figures to speak at his fundraising event at his home, the payment to Melania made in December 2021 by Donald Trump's Super PAC at the time, Make America Great Again, which has since shuttered, was not listed on the Super PAC's list of expenditures made public last year. Instead, the hefty remittance to his wife was initially disclosed as 2 payments of $125,000, $30,000 to the designer's management agency where Melania is a client. And there are other examples of Melania Trump being paid to attend Trump campaign events. As of recently, we also saw her being paid for a speaking engagement at the Log Cabin Republicans fundraiser. And so we know Melania doesn't want to be out on the campaign trail, and she needs a bit of incentive to support her husband, and that will be made clear in this post that she made. But again, before we get into that, I wanted to provide a little bit of context on the contents of what she had to say in this post by playing a clip from former Trump advisor Stephanie Grisham at the DNC, which I think will give a little bit of light to what Melania posted.
On January 6th, I asked Melania if we could at least tweet that while peaceful protest is the right of every American, there's no place for lawlessness or violence. She replied with one word: no. I became the first senior staffer to resign that day. I couldn't be part of the insanity any longer.
Just like her husband, it is incredibly clear that Melania Trump does not care about our democracy. She only cares about herself and her priorities. She is just like Donald the Trumps as a family, we can tell, are greedy and narcissistic and self-centered, only trying to advance their own personal agenda and whatever given moment that they're in. And that is exactly what happened with this post that Melania Trump made the first time she's really speaking out. And the fact that she's only speaking out, which you'll see in a second, makes it even stranger that she made this post. But with all of that context, I think we know why she did. But before we go any further, let's just check it out.
The 2020 election results changed our lives forever. It impacted our quality of life, cost of food, gasoline, safety, and even the geopolitical landscape. America is more divided today than ever before. It has become increasingly apparent that there are significant challenges to free speech, as demonstrated by the efforts to silence my husband.
So it seems like in that audio-only video, which again, so incredibly strange, it's just weird, but it seems like Melania is suggesting that the 2020 election was not fairly and lawfully decided. Of course, an absolute lie. But she's also pushing this notion that Donald Trump, who shared this video with over 90 million people who follow him on Twitter, is somehow being silenced. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But I wanted to read that article first before we got into this post, because it's clear the only reason Melania is only really speaking out on behalf of Trump for about 25 seconds in that video is because she wants to promote her book. She is only helping out with the campaign now that there is an incentive for her. It's just like when she has been paid to attend these speaking of its, she doesn't actually care. She just wants to push her new book. That's all it's about. It is just the same old when it comes to the grift. And so it's so funny to me that the only way Trump can get his wife to support him is if there's something in it for her. And in this instance, it is her hawking her book to millions of MAGA supporters. And that's a really funny thing to do in contrast with the support that Doug Emhoff has been giving to Kamala Harris. And I think that contrast is so clear with this tweet right here. At the end of the month, I was in Chicago for the Democratic Convention. And you know what I heard everywhere? The same exact chants, USA, USA. But this time, it was because of Kamala. She can unite the country around our highest aspirations because she has everything we need in a leader right now. Such a sweet, loving, just joyful tweet from the second gentleman who wasn't trying to push his book, who wasn't trying to get anyone to buy anything. He just wanted to support his spouse, and he wanted to support someone who is a leader who can bring this country forward. That is why he is doing it. There's no alternative motive there. He just knows what is best for our democracy. And that is uplifting Kamala Harris. But again, those are not the intentions of Melania Trump. All she's focused on right now, in the most important election of our lifetime, is trying to get people to buy her book. And again, she's been making all of these posts about her memoir. And I think really the strangest one was this right here.
Writing this memoir has been a deeply personal and reflective journey for me. As a private person who has often been the subject of public scrutiny and misrepresentation, I feel a responsibility to clarify the facts. I believe it is important to share my perspective, the truth.
That video, other than the fact that it's just kind of weird, is that I think there were at least 100 photos cut together very quickly, of course. But I only saw like 2 or 3 of Trump, so Melania Trump is telling the story about her experience as the First Lady. And Donald Trump is barely a part of it. It's so clear they just had to force a couple in. She really didn't want them. There were none of them just like holding hands or hugging. It was just like his face popped up. Oh man, this relationship is so funny, especially out of the party of family values. And I think that family values lie that Republicans are telling has become especially important to call out lately as we begin talking about childcare more, as it becomes a more important issue of this campaign. And of course, we saw the rambling, nonsensical non-in that Donald Trump gave about childcare. We should not call that an answer or a response, but a couple of days ago, of course, we saw that. And Pete Buttigieg had a great little bit to say on that, so I want to play this clip right here.
Importantly, getting us a way forward on childcare affordability. She has a plan for expanding the child tax credit, making sure that we have paid family leave in this country. 2 things we would have right now if Republicans weren't blocking them. And as we saw when Donald Trump was asked about childcare the other day, it wasn't clear whether he even understood the question.
Republicans are holding up efforts to make childcare more affordable. They are holding up efforts to continue to implement the child tax credit, but they're claiming to be the party of family values J.D. Vance is attacking those who do not have children while not doing anything to combat how difficult it is to afford children right now. That's the hypocrisy that is always built into MAGA, and the fact that it's not being called out is so absolutely ridiculous. But thankfully, there's one person who we can always count on to call out not only the ridiculousness of MAGA, but the ridiculousness of the mainstream media, and that's Jessica Tarlow.
I would dare any of you to listen to his answer on childcare and tell me what the hell he was talking about. It was one of the more incoherent things I've ever heard. He thinks tariffs are going to pay for everything. We know that there are attacks on the consumer. But this really highlights a big problem that everyone is saying, well, Trump is so transparent and Trump's out there and that's all that matters. What matters is the content of what he's saying. And none of it is explainable.
It is not just that we see the failure of the Trump campaign, but we see the failure to cover the Trump campaign. The mainstream media does not want to talk about this in any real way. Of course, they're satisfied with Donald Trump giving answers, even though they're non-answers, and won't point out the simple fact that he is clearly incapable of talking about policy in a substantive way, and that he is incapable of doing the job of being president of the United States. Of course, we know that, but it's time for him to start getting called out on it. And of course, we are going to be doing that every single day on the show. And so if you want to support that, you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like, come a part of this community. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments so I can thank you for your support. And until next time, I'll see you soon.